Ma'am, stop resisting and get on the ground
I'm
now.
not I'm standing still with my hands up.
You're being uncooperative. Get down!
Officer, you're hurting me. I'm not.
You're being belligerent. Get down now! I don't care who you think you are. On the ground!
My hands are empty. I am not a threat, and your camera is recording this. Understand that every second of this is being recorded, and you are violating established law.
Ma'am, stop resisting and get on the ground now.
I'm standing still with my hands up.
You're being uncooperative. Get down!
Officer, you're hurting me. I'm not a threat.
Do not argue with me.
My hands are empty. Your camera is recording this.
Get on the ground!
Officer, I'm a sitting federal judge. Please. You're making a mistake.
I am Judge Althea Sterling.
I guess.
United States District Court. These are my federal credentials.
The body camera shakes violently as Officer David Hutchkins approaches the black Mercedes. His hand hovers near his weapon. Through the lens, you can see a woman in a burgundy coat, standing calmly beside her open trunk, shopping bags scattered around her feet. Hutchkins, ma'am, step away from that vehicle right now. Judge Sterling, officer, this is my car. I'm just loading my groceries. Hutchkins, I'll be the judge of that. Show me some ID. The woman reaches slowly into her purse, pulling out a black leather credential holder. She opens it carefully, revealing a gold federal seal that catches the afternoon light. Judge Sterling, I am Judge Althea Sterling, United States District Court. These are my federal credentials. Hutchkins snatches the holder from her hand, barely glances at it. Hutchkins, yeah? This could be fake. People print these things off the internet all the time. Judge Sterling, then call the courthouse. The number is right there on the back. They'll confirm. Hutchkins, turn around. You're under arrest. Judge Sterling, on what charge? Hutchkins, obstruction, hands behind your back. Now, Judge Sterling, voice steady, speaking clearly for the camera. I am not resisting. I am standing completely still. Officer, you are violating clearly established Fourth Amendment law, and your body camera is recording every second of this constitutional violation. Hutchkins, stop resisting. Judge Sterling, I am not resisting. That 6-minute encounter in a La Jolla shopping mall parking lot would destroy multiple careers, trigger a Department of Justice investigation, and cost the city of San Diego $800,000. But the real story? It's about what happened when a cop's ego collided with one of the most powerful legal minds in California, a federal judge who had spent the last decade sending corrupt police officers to prison. This is the story of Judge Althea Sterling, and it's about to get absolutely insane. Before we dive in, I need you to drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. And if you think police should be held accountable when they break the law, smash that subscribe button. Because this story is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about justice in America. Althea Sterling wasn't born in America. She was born in a tiny house in Kingston, Jamaica, where her mother taught elementary school and her father sorted mail at the post office. They had big dreams, but small bank accounts. When Althea turned 12, her mother sat her down at their kitchen table and told her they were moving to America. The entire family's savings, about $3,000, was going toward this one shot at a better life. Imagine being 12 years old, leaving everything you know, and boarding a plane to Los Angeles with nothing but a suitcase and your mother's prayers. That's how Althea Sterling came to America. She landed at LAX in 1975 with a thick Jamaican accent that her classmates at Crenshaw High School would mock relentlessly. Teachers told her to set realistic goals, code for, maybe college isn't for you. She ignored them. By the time she graduated, she wasn't just at the top of her class. She was so far ahead that UCLA offered her a full scholarship. Then she did something that seemed impossible. She got into Yale Law School. At Yale, she wasn't just another law student. She became obsessed with one specific topic, the Fourth Amendment, the constitutional protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, the very law that would later be violated against her in that parking lot. After Yale, she clerked for one of the most influential judges in America, Judge Stephen Reinhardt, on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Then she spent 15 years as a civil rights attorney, taking on cases other lawyers wouldn't touch. Cases against police departments, cases about illegal searches, cases about racial profiling. Here's what you need to understand. Althea Sterling wasn't just good at her job. She was legendary. She won more cases than she lost. And she made a lot of enemies in law enforcement. In 2009, President Johnson nominated her to the federal bench. She was confirmed by the Senate. Republicans and Democrats both voted yes because her credentials were undeniable. At age 46, she became one of the youngest federal judges in California history. For the next 10 years, she presided over some of the most important cases in the state. She sent organized crime bosses to prison. She wrote legal opinions that became binding law across 3 states. She ruled on dozens of police misconduct cases. She suppressed evidence when cops violated people's rights. She awarded millions in damages to victims of illegal search. And here's the kicker. She had personally sentenced corrupt police officers to prison for abusing their power. So on March 16, 2019, when Judge Althea Sterling walked into that shopping mall for a normal Saturday afternoon, she wasn't just any woman. She was a legal weapon with 10 years of federal judicial power, encyclopedic knowledge of constitutional law, and absolutely zero tolerance for police misconduct. But to the security guard watching her on a grainy security monitor, she was just another black woman who didn't look right, standing near an expensive car. Picture this. March 16, 2019. Perfect Saturday afternoon. Temperature 72 degrees. Clear blue sky. Judge Sterling had spent the morning browsing Williams-Sonoma, picking up some kitchen items, a new lamp for her office, a few books she'd been meaning to read. Normal stuff. The kind of errands you do when you actually have a free Saturday. Around 2:15 p.m. she walks back to her car, a black Mercedes E-Class that she'd bought with her own money after years of hard work. She pops the trunk, starts loading her shopping bags. That's it. That's all she was doing. Loading her own groceries into her own car. But 200 yards away, in the mall security office, a guard is watching her on a monitor, and something about what he sees bothers him. Not her behavior. She's literally just standing there. But her presence. Security guard. Yeah, dispatch. This is La Jolla Commons Security. Dispatcher. Go ahead. Security guard. I've got a, suspicious person in the north lot. Dispatcher. Copy. What's the suspicious activity? Security guard. Long pause. It's a black female, maybe 50s, standing by a Mercedes. Dispatcher. Is she breaking into the vehicle? Security guard. No. Dispatcher. Is there damage to the car? Broken glass? Security guard. No, nothing like that. Dispatcher. So what's suspicious? Security guard. She doesn't look like she belongs here, you know? Stop right there. Let's talk about that phrase. Doesn't look like she belongs. Not she's breaking into a car. Not she has a weapon. Not she's threatening someone. Just, she doesn't look like she belongs. That's code. That's the same language used to call the police on black families at community pools. Black birdwatchers in parks. Black people barbecuing in public spaces. It's not about behavior. It's about presence. And here's the legal problem. Under Terry versus Ohio, the Supreme Court case that governs police stops, officers need reasonable, articulable suspicion of criminal activity, not a feeling, not a vibe. Specific facts pointing to a crime. She doesn't look like she belongs is not a fact. It's prejudice with a badge. But once that call goes out over the radio, it triggers a response. And the officer who responds, his name is David Hutchkins, and he's been waiting for a call like this. David Hutchkins joined the San Diego Police Department in 2011. Fresh out of the academy, 28 years old, ready to make his mark. His training officers loved him, called him proactive. In his first year, he made more arrests than any rookie in his class. He was named Rookie of the Year. But here's what nobody bothered to look at. WHO he was arresting. Internal Affairs would later discover that Hutchkins stopped black drivers at nearly double the rate of other officers. By year 3, it was 2.5 times the average. By year 8, when he arrested Judge Sterling, he was stopping black motorists at 2.8 times the department average. Let me put that in perspective. San Diego's black population is about 6% of the total. If his stops were random and unbiased, black people should represent 6% of his traffic stops. They represented 23%. But wait, it gets worse. 78% of his stops of black drivers resulted in NO citation. 84% of his searches found NO contraband. His hit rate for finding illegal items was 34% lower for black drivers than white drivers. Think about what that means. He's stopping black people at 3 times the rate. He's searching them at 4 times the rate. But he's finding less contraband. That's not policing. That's fishing with race as the bait. And the department knew. Or at least they should have known. Case number 1 2015. Marcus Johnson, black investment banker, driving a Lexus. Hutchkins stops him, claiming he matches the description of a robbery suspect. There was no robbery. Johnson was detained for 45 minutes. Searched. Released without citation. Sued the city. Settlement, $35,000. Hutchkins received a written warning. Case number 2 2017. Keisha Williams, black attorney, stopped for an obstructed license plate, a single leaf touching the edge. Hutchkins asks to search her car. She refuses. He detains her anyway, calls in a K-9 unit, keeps her on the side of the road for 90 minutes. Dog alerts. No drugs found. She sues. Settlement, $50,000. Hutchins received mandatory retraining. 2 lawsuits, $85,000 in payouts, multiple complaints, and the department kept him on the streets with nothing more than a slap on the wrist. That's not an oversight. That's a policy. So on March 16, 2019, when Hutchins hears that dispatch call about a suspicious black woman near a Mercedes, he doesn't hear a welfare check. He hears confirmation of what he already believes. He grabs his partner, Officer James Morrison, and they head to the mall. 3 minutes away, they have no idea they're about to arrest a federal judge. Judge Sterling is loading the last bag when she hears it. Sirens. Tires screeching. She turns to see 2 police cruisers pulling up fast on either side of her Mercedes, a tactical pincer move you'd use for a felony stop. Both officers jump out with hands on their weapons. Hutchins. Ma'am. Step away from the vehicle. Show me your hands. Pause. This is the moment. Right here. Under constitutional law, this is called a seizure. When cops block your car and issue commands with hands on weapons, you are not free to leave. That means they need reasonable, articulable suspicion that you're committing a crime. They have a security guard's feeling. Judge Sterling knows this because she's written 32 published legal opinions on this exact scenario. Judge Sterling. Officer, this is my car. I'm loading my own purchases. What specific facts led you to believe I'm engaged in criminal activity? Hutchins. Ma'am, I'm not here to debate with you. Show me ID. Judge Sterling. I will comply, but I want to be clear. I do not consent to any search of my person or vehicle. I'm asserting my Fourth Amendment rights while cooperating with your lawful request. Listen to that phrasing. I do not consent to any search. Under Florida v. Bostick, police can ask for consent, but refusal to consent can't be used as reasonable suspicion. She's not being difficult. She's building a legal record in real time. Hutchins. Stepping closer, aggressive. You're being real uncooperative right now. Judge Sterling. I'm exercising my constitutional rights, officer. She reaches into her purse, slowly, deliberately, and pulls out that black leather credential holder with the gold federal seal. Judge Sterling. I am Judge Althea Sterling, United States District Court for the Southern District of California. These are my federal judicial credentials. The verification number is on the back. I'm asking you to call the courthouse before this escalates. This should be where it ends. Where Hutchins says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Your Honor," and walks away. But his ego won't let him. But Hutchins isn't thinking logically. He's thinking about the crowd of shoppers now watching, with their phones out. He's thinking about his partner standing next to him. He's thinking about his ego. Officer Morrison, quietly. Hey, maybe we should just call it in. Just to verify. Hutchins, waving him off. Nah, this is BS. She's playing games. Judge Sterling, Officer Hutchins, reading his nameplate. I'm asking you one final time. Call the courthouse. 619-557-5600. They will confirm my identity in 30 seconds. Hutchins, you're being uncooperative. You're obstructing my investigation. Judge Sterling, I've provided federal credentials and offered verification. I'm standing still with my hands visible. How am I obstructing? Hutchins, turn around. You're under arrest. Judge Sterling, on what charge? Hutchins, California Penal Code 148, resisting and obstructing. Section 148 is the catch-all charge cops use when they have nothing else. It criminalizes refusing to comply with lawful orders. But if the detention is illegal, which this one absolutely is, then 148 doesn't apply. Judge Sterling knows this. She's ruled on 148 cases dozens of times. She's dismissed charges and suppressed evidence when cops weaponized it. And now it's being used against her. Judge Sterling, voice steady but forceful. I need you to understand something. I am a sitting federal judge. I have jurisdiction over civil rights cases, including Section 1983 lawsuits. What you're about to do will destroy your career. Verify my identity and walk away. Hutchins, are you threatening me? Judge Sterling, I'm stating a legal fact. You're violating clearly established Fourth Amendment law. Clearly established is the standard for qualified immunity. By using force without reasonable suspicion, you're not entitled to immunity. Do you understand? She's trying to save him. Even as she's being unlawfully arrested, she's giving him a legal roadmap to avoid catastrophe. Clearly established law means the violation is so obvious that any reasonable officer would know it's wrong. When you violate clearly established law, you lose qualified immunity, the shield that protects cops from being sued personally. She's telling him, do this, and I can sue you. Your house, your savings, your pension. He doesn't listen. What happens next is captured on 2 body cameras, 3 cell phones, and mall security footage. More angles than most movies. Hutchins and Morrison grab her arms simultaneously, left and right, and jerk her body between them like she's resisting. She's not. Hutchins, stop resisting. Morrison, stop pulling away. Judge Sterling, voice tight but controlled. I am not resisting. I am standing still. Your cameras are recording. From this angle, you can see everything. A dignified woman in a burgundy coat. Shopping bags scattered on the ground. Two officers force her arms behind her back, while she stands completely motionless. A crowd has gathered. People are shouting. Bystander. She's not doing anything. Leave her alone. Hutchins, to crowd. Step back. This doesn't concern you. The sound echoes across the parking lot. Hutchins tightens them more than necessary. You can see Judge Sterling wince before her face goes neutral again. Judge Sterling, speaking clearly for all cameras. I am Judge Althea Sterling. Judicial badge number 342 SD. I am being unlawfully arrested by Officers Hutchins and Morrison of the San Diego Police Department. Date, March 16, 2019. Time, approximately 2:28 p.m. I am not resisting. I am invoking my right to remain silent beyond this statement. I will be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit for this violation, even handcuffed, even humiliated, even with dozens of people watching. She's building her case. Full name and title. Badge number proves identity. Officers' names. Exact date and time. Clear statement of non-resistance. Notice of lawsuit. This isn't her first rodeo with police misconduct. She's handled these cases from the bench for a decade. The difference? Now she's not the judge. She's the plaintiff. They walk her through the parking lot. Past frozen shoppers. Past mothers, shielding their children's eyes. Past an elderly white man shouting, "This is disgusting." When they reach the patrol car, Hutchins puts his hand on her head, standard procedure, but done roughly, and guides her into the back seat. For 12 minutes, Judge Sterling sits in that police car, silent, handcuffed, her shopping bags scattered across the pavement. Her trunk is still open. Her Mercedes was sitting there with the keys in her purse. Later, she'd tell reporters what she was doing during those 12 minutes. Mentally drafting the lawsuit. Jurisdictional basis. Federal question. Legal claims. 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, 4th and 14th Amendment violations. Evidence. Body cam, cell phone footage, dispatch logs. Case law, Terry v. Ohio, Warren v. United States, Arizona v. Johnson. Damages. To be determined after discovery. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She was building a case that would cost the city $800,000 and trigger a federal investigation. 2:47 p.m. The patrol car pulls into the station garage. Hutchins and Morrison walk Judge Sterling through booking like she's any other arrestee. The booking officer, Sergeant Linda Jack, looks up from her paperwork with practiced indifference. Sergeant Jack. Name? Judge Sterling. Althea Michelle Sterling. Sergeant Jack. Address? Judge Sterling. I'm invoking my right to remain silent beyond my name. I'm also requesting you examine the credentials Officer Hutchins took from me. Sergeant Jack looking at Hutchins. You took her ID? Hutchins. Tossing credential holder on desk. She claims she's a federal judge. It's fake. Sergeant Chen picks up the leather holder. Open it. Her face changes instantly. Sergeant Jack, voice dropping. What is this? Hutchins. Like I said, she claims. Sergeant Jack, not looking at him. Hutchins, shut up. She examines the seal, hold it up to the light. Then she does what Hutchins should have done 40 minutes ago. She Googles, Judge Althea Sterling San Diego. First result. Hon. Althea M. Sterling. United States District Court, Southern District of California. Official courthouse photo. Same woman sitting in handcuffs right in front of her. Sergeant Jack. Barely a whisper. Oh my God. Hutchins. What? Sergeant Jack. Voice rising. Get Lieutenant Freeman. Now. Office door slams open. Lieutenant Marcus Freeman, 21 years on the force, survived 3 department scandals, seen everything, walks into booking. Lieutenant Freeman. Jack, what's the emergency? Chen hands him the credentials without a word. Freeman looks at the seal. Look at Judge Sterling. Look back at the seal. His face goes white. Lieutenant Freeman, to Hutchins, voice deadly quiet. Tell me you verified this. Hutchins. Sir, I thought it was fake. Lieutenant Freeman. Did you verify? Hutchins. Silence. Lieutenant Freeman, closing his eyes. Get her out of those cuffs. Now. Morrison. Sir, we can still. Lieutenant Freeman. Get her out of the handcuffs. Handcuffs. Unlock. Judge Sterling rubs her wrists. Never breaks eye contact with Freeman. Judge Sterling, I am Lieutenant Marcus Freeman. On behalf of the San Diego Police Department, I want to. Judge Sterling, cutting him off. Don't. Lieutenant Freeman, Your Honor. Judge Sterling, don't call me that. You lost that right when your officers handcuffed me for loading groceries while black. And I don't want your apology. Lieutenant Freeman, what can I? Judge Sterling, preserve all body camera footage, all dispatch logs, all personnel files for Hutchins and Morrison, all training records on Fourth Amendment procedures. I'll be requesting them within 72 hours, and expect a lawsuit that will cost this city more than you make in a decade. She stands, grabs her purse, walked to the exit. Judge Sterling, turning back. I've been on this bench for 10 years. I've presided over 17 Section 1983 cases against this department. I've suppressed evidence, dismissed charges, awarded damages when your officers violated rights. Dramatic pause. Judge Sterling, I gave you every chance to get it right. She pauses. Judge Sterling, not anymore. Door closes. Freeman stands there for a full minute, staring at empty space. Then he pulls out his phone and calls the assistant chief. By the end of that 4-minute conversation, Freeman's career trajectory has fundamentally changed. And Hutchins' career is over. Law office. Document preparation. Judge Sterling doesn't hire an attorney. She doesn't need one. 5 days later, March 21, 2019, she files a 23-page federal complaint. But she can't file it in her own court. Conflict of interest. So she files in the Central District of California, Los Angeles, and requests assignment to a judge outside San Diego. The complaint reads like a prosecutor's closing argument. Althea M. Sterling, Plaintiff versus City of San Diego. Officer David, Hutchkins, individually and officially. Officer James Morrison, individually and officially. Claim 1, 42 U.S.C. Section 1983 Fourth Amendment. Unlawful seizure without reasonable suspicion. Cites Terry v. Ohio, Rodriguez v. United States, Arizona v. Johnson. Claim 2, 42 U.S.C. Section 1983 14th Amendment. Selective enforcement based on race. A white woman loading a Mercedes would never be reported as suspicious. Claim 3, Monell claim. This is the nuclear option. Argues the violation wasn't one officer's mistake. It's systemic failure by the city to train, supervise, and discipline. The city failed to train officers on implicit bias, discipline officers with racial profiling patterns, implement oversight of stop data. Claim 4, state law, false arrest, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. She doesn't name a dollar amount. That's strategic. You don't limit yourself before discovery. But in private negotiations, her number is clear, $800,000. Judge Sterling requests all stop data for Hutchins over 5 years. Broken down by race. What comes back is devastating. San Diego's black populations, 6% of total. Hutchins stops of black drivers, 23%. Traffic stops by race, black drivers, 2.8x department average. Latino drivers, 1.4x average. White drivers, 0.6x average. Search rates, black drivers, 34% searched. Latino drivers, 22% searched. White drivers, 9% searched. Hit rate, contraband found. Black drivers, 16%, despite being searched at 34%. White drivers, 27%, despite being searched at only 9%. Narrator, let me explain why this is damning. Hutchins searches black drivers at 4 times the rate. But those searches are less likely to find contraband. That's textbook racial profiling. If black drivers actually had more contraband, the hit rate would be higher. But it's lower. He's searching based on skin color, not evidence. Attorney, Officer Hutchins, have you received implicit bias training in the last 5 years? Hutchins, no. Attorney, are you aware you stop black drivers at 2.8 times the department average? Hutchins, I wasn't aware of that number. Attorney, how do you explain it? Hutchins, pause. I stop people based on behavior, not race. Attorney, but the data shows your searches of black drivers find less contraband. Explain that. Hutchins, maybe I'm just more thorough. Attorney, more thorough with black drivers specifically. Hutchins, that's not what I meant. Attorney, but that's what the data shows. Hutchins, no answer. 2 prior lawsuits, both racial profiling, both settled quietly. 2015, Marcus Johnson, black investment banker. Stopped without cause, detained 45 minutes. The city paid $35,000. Hutchins got a written warning. 2017, Keisha Williams, black attorney. Stopped for a leaf on the license plate. Detained 90 minutes. K9 called. Nothing found. The city paid $50,000. Hutchkins got retraining. Narrator. $85,000 in prior settlements. Multiple complaints. And the department kept him on the streets. That's deliberate indifference. That's the foundation of a Monell claim. By August 2019, the city's attorneys recommend immediate settlement. Less than 7 months after the arrest, the city of San Diego announces the settlement. $800,000. One of the largest false arrest settlements in California history. City attorney. The city regrets the events of March 16th. While our officers believe they were acting appropriately, we recognize Judge Sterling's rights were violated. This settlement reflects our commitment to accountability. Cut to Judge Sterling's press conference. 1 hour later, she stands alone. No attorneys. No prepared remarks. Judge Sterling. I want to be clear. I didn't fight for money. I fought because what happened to me happens to black people every single day, except they don't have federal credentials. They don't have legal expertise. They don't have resources to sue. I'm donating every cent to organizations fighting for police accountability. ACLU of Southern California, $300,000. NAACP, Legal Defense Fund, $300,000. San Diego Public Defender Wrongful Arrest Clinic, $200,000. But money isn't enough. I demanded reforms. Reform package appears. Checkmark mandatory 40 hours implicit bias training. Annual 8-hour refreshers. Checkmark stop data collection. All stops logged by race. Quarterly audits. Checkmark civilian oversight board. Subpoena power for racial profiling complaints. Checkmark body camera policy. Arrests without charges. Flagged for review within 48 hours. Checkmark early warning system. Officers with 1.5x racial disparities automatically flagged. Checkmark disciplinary reform. Multiple bias complaints equals ineligible for promotion, subject to termination. Judge Sterling. These reforms won't fix everything. But they're a start. They only happened because I had the knowledge and resources to fight. The next person won't need those things, because these policies will protect them. Officer David Hutchkins, terminated October 15, 2015. Lost law enforcement certification. Flagged in National Decertification Index, effectively unhireable nationwide. Filed bankruptcy 2016. Last known, private security, reduced pay. Officer James Morrison, 30-day suspension without pay. 80 hours retraining. Reassigned to desk duty. Resigned 2020. Lieutenant Marcus Freeman, formally reprimanded for failure to supervise. Removed from watch commander. Denied promotion to captain. Retired early 2021. Sergeant Linda Jack, no discipline. She tried to stop it. Later promoted to lieutenant. Now heads internal affairs. The case has sparked renewed debate about racial profiling. Legal analyst. What makes this unique is the victim understood constitutional law intimately. She built her case in real time. Civil rights attorney. This sends a message. Violate rights. Face consequences. Judge Sterling wasn't done. Using her federal connections and detailed documentation, she personally contacted the DOJ Civil Rights Division. December 3, 2019. DOJ announces formal investigation into San Diego PD's stop and search practices. Investigation scope. 5 years of stop data across entire department. Training protocols. Disciplinary procedures. Policies on searches and seizures. 14 months later, March 2021, the DOJ releases its findings. Key findings. Black drivers stopped at 2.1x their population rate. Latino drivers stopped at 1.7x their rate. Black and Latino drivers more likely to be searched. Lower hit rates for minorities. Officers with bias patterns faced minimal consequences. Implicit bias training, inadequate and infrequent. Supervisory review, essentially non-existent. DOJ recommendation, consent decree, federal oversight for minimum 3 years. City of San Diego agrees. Quarterly reporting to federal monitors. Complete training overhaul. Early warning systems. Mandatory data collection. Community advisory board. Financial penalties for non-compliance. A consent decree is the federal government saying, you can't police yourselves. We're taking over. It's the nuclear option. And it only happened because a federal judge used her power, not just from the bench, but as a plaintiff. 3 years after her arrest, the changes are measurable. Stop disparities, 2019 vs 2023. Black drivers, decreased from 2.1x to 1.3x. Latino drivers, decreased from 1.7x to 1.2x. Overall stops, down 23%. Search rates, black drivers, down 34%. Latino drivers, down 28%. Hit rates, all races, up 12%. Officer accountability, 17, terminated for racial bias patterns. 43 disciplined for violations. 8 criminally charged. Unrelated cases surfaced. Community trust. Black community, up from 23% to 41%. Latino community, up from 31% to 48%. Overall, up from 54% to 63%. Judge Sterling, people ask if I regret what happened. The answer is complicated. Do I regret being humiliated? Of course. But do I regret the fight? Never. What happened to me wasn't unique. It was just visible. I had credentials, knowledge, platform. Most people don't. The reforms aren't for me. I'm fine. Therefore, the single mother pulled over on her way to work. The teenager stopped walking home. Every black and brown person made to feel like a suspect in their own life. That's why I fought. That's why we can't stop fighting. Judge Sterling returned to the bench May 2019, 2 months after her arrest. No leave of absence. No lighter caseload. She showed up. And something interesting happened. Officers testifying in her courtroom became very careful about following procedure. Defense attorneys requested her for their clients, knowing she wouldn't tolerate misconduct. Prosecutors knew questionable searches would be suppressed. Since her arrest, 47 published opinions. 12 involve police misconduct or Fourth Amendment issues. She's become even more influential than before. Judge Sterling's case became a flashpoint. But understand, she's an outlier. Reality check, 2019. Approximately 10 million arrests in the U.S. Approximately 135,000 later determined false arrests. Less than 2% of victims successfully sue. Average settlement, $30,000 to $50,000. Officers terminated in less than 5% of cases. Judge Sterling got $800,000 in reforms because she was a federal judge with resources and expertise. The average person gets nothing. Sandra Bland, traffic stop for failing to signal. Arrested, found dead in jail 3 days later. Family, $1.9 million settlement. No criminal charges. Philando Castile, shot during traffic stop while complying. Officer acquitted. Family, $3 million settlement. Breonna Taylor, killed in home during botched raid. No officers charged with death. Family, $12 million settlement. Narrator, Judge Sterling lived. Had credentials, knew rights, survived. Thousands didn't. Her case became a rallying point. Ending qualified immunity, ongoing battle. National Misconduct Database, partially implemented. Mandatory officer liability insurance, proposed. Federal stop and search standards, stalled. The question: should it require a federal judge being arrested for a department to implement basic constitutional protections? Or should those protections exist for everyone? If this made you angry, good. If it changed how you think about police accountability, better. Now do something. Educate yourself. Know your rights. Right to remain silent. Right to refuse searches. Right to ask if you're free to leave. Support reforms. Demand body cameras. Civilian oversight. Transparency in misconduct data. Vote for DAs who prosecute misconduct. City councils funding accountability. State legislators reforming qualified immunity. Spread this story. Share this video. Start conversations. Judge Sterling said, "Justice isn't justice if it only applies to people with credentials and resources. Real justice is when the teenager in a hoodie has the same protections as a federal judge. We're not there yet, but we're fighting to get there. We're not there yet, but cases like this move us closer." Drop a comment. What should happen to officers who violate constitutional rights? Criminal charges? Lose immunity? Personal liability? Subscribe for more cases where power meets accountability. Because we're just getting started.